So the dominance of Al-Qaeda guarantees that the Arabs and the Muslims will be isolated and defeated. And they also, of course, the question of scientific and technological backwardness that will be enforced by this. Who is Osama bin Laden? On one level, he's a rich dilettante, a misfit, a bungler. Others would say a psychotic basket case, a raving ideologue. Some members of the Saudi Arabian society that he lived with call him a simpleton. The CIA veteran said that he's a clueless dupe. Prince Bandar, the current ambassador, said that he could not lead 8 ducks across the road. The best guess is that bin Laden is controlled by Zawahiri, one of the people who took part in the killing of Egyptian President Sadat 25 years ago, who is somebody who works pretty clearly for MI6. Bin Laden, the State Department has been his travel agent. Flights were arranged for his relatives. The CIA, as we've heard, is his health plan. He was treated at the American hospital in Dubai and at a U.S. hospital in Pakistan. The U.S. Special Forces are his domestic servants. Sergeant Ali Mohammed of Fort Bragg helped him to move his household to the Sudan. British intelligence helps him with his recruiting. He gets recruitment through British prisons by way of British mosques. And the British and U.S. intelligence services are his flacks, his public relations agents. Bernard Lewis, the famous Orientalist, says that bin Laden is in the great Muslim tradition, and his spokesman has operated out of London. There is at the CIA headquarters a bin Laden fan club. It's expressed in the book Imperial Hubris, written by a completely anonymous CIA agent whose name we do know. And this anonymous says that bin Laden is the greatest political genius of the 21st century, comparable to Abraham Lincoln and beloved of Muslims everywhere. The CIA therefore defends bin Laden against his critics. And the big question now is, will the CIA sacrifice bin Laden for the sake of the re-election of George Bush or not? And we'll know the answer to that in a very short time. Naturally, the Al-Qaeda false flag Air Force is mainly noted for its bungling ineptitude. This has already been covered. Now, just a couple of questions of method. On 9/11, the presence of these maneuvers that we're going to hear about took U.S. fighters away from where they should have been and into Alaska and northern Canada. And they were fake aircraft and fake blips. Now, the question I would propose is, how do you interpret this? Does it mean that Al-Qaeda has infiltrated the United States government, or that the U.S. government controls Al-Qaeda? I say a faction inside the U.S. government controls Al-Qaeda. I would say that one of the most important pieces of 9/11 evidence is the message to the Secret Service, Angel is next, about 10 o'clock in the morning. Air Force One is going to be attacked. This message contains top secret cosmic codes, later denied by leakers. Does that mean that the Al-Qaeda has infiltrated the U.S. government and learned the codes? Or does it mean that a network inside the U.S. government controls Al-Qaeda and the hijackings? I would say the latter. Sybil Edmonds, we've heard about her, FBI translator of Turkish and Persian. She found members of the target group were running the FBI office where she worked, and they tried to direct the means of intelligence gathering. What does that mean? That the target group has infiltrated the FBI, or that the FBI controls the target group? Now, just the last thing is the collapse of the myth. This is a cartoonist version. 9/11 truth is coming down, and Cheney and Bush are trying to spin faster. This myth is in crisis. The BBC several days ago ran a program called The Power of Nightmares. They called Al-Qaeda a myth, a dark illusion. It's a demagogy of fear used by politicians to preserve their power when all the old slogans have become useless. Fox News was very indignant about this, and they're planning a slander on October 31st. They're trying to use footage from Barry Zwicker and others to show that anybody who doesn't believe in 9/11 is anti-American. And I hope the answer from this conference will overthrow that particular attempt. So they say it's a myth. In the same week, Zarqawi, over in Iraq, the alleged mastermind of the Iraqi resistance, declares publicly his allegiance to bin Laden, bin Laden, bin Laden forever. And even the American press, Anthony Cordesman, admits that Zarqawi is really another bin Laden, a semi-mythical figure built up by U.S. publicity. The myth is in crisis. The Harper's Magazine October issue defines the 9/11 Commission report as a whitewash, a fraud, and a cheat, mainly because they failed to hold Bush and his advisors accountable for the disasters that have occurred on their watch. Here's the Bloomsbury again. The answer to every question in the White House is 9/11. Now, you've heard about George Soros financing the Democratic Party. The 9/11 truth movement has been helped by Jimmy Walter at the New York City conference with 1,300 people. He's put ads in major print media, including the New York Times, in the last couple of days. And one of the results of this is that Howard Stern, with his 13 million listeners, has been telling them that no airplane hit the Pentagon, most likely a cruise missile. The Washington Post has had to respond to this. We've had conferences all around the world. We've had a series of books. We've had websites and internet radio, and the result is, according to the Zogby poll, that 50% of the residents of New York City do not believe the official story. Therefore, I would say the potential is that the 9/11 myth has been severely damaged and might indeed collapse as we go into the final phase before the elections, especially in the light of the secret Inspector General report from the CIA that ought to be revealed before November 2nd. Thank you very much.